And welcome to Overtime on the Ice. I'm Jenna Harner, joined by Phil Bourque and Dejan Kovacevic. Guys, after a pretty rough start to the week, giving up 15 goals in 2 games, the Pens bouncing back, able to win 2 in a row. And I think we looked at some of the guys that have really been contributors and key contributors as of late, and 2 of the names that we brought up that it's pretty hard to decide which one's more valuable, Jared McCann and Brian Dumoulin. I guess we can just kind of make it generic in the sense that what have they both been doing that's been so beneficial to this team? Taking a look here, Dumoulin, this is the stat that sticks out to me. Since his return from injury back in early March, the team is 14-4-1, but it's also hard not to notice what McCann's been able to do lately, finding the back of the net, including especially on the power play.
I'll take Dumo, man. He is the difference maker for me, and that's not taking anything away from Jared McCann and how good he's been. He's been off the charts good, but really, all the details, all the little things that Brian Dumoulin does, and those numbers, Jenna, 14-4-1 since Dumo returned on March the 6th. That's incredible. So he's chipping in with points. He's got a 4-game point streak, goals in 2 of his last 3. Those are great, but those aren't the most important things to me. The most important thing to me is the influence that Brian Dumoulin has had on Chris Letang. How Chris Letang has simplified his game, and Tanger is playing some of his best hockey since Dumo came back.
I'm going to take Jared McCann, and I'm going to be like Phil here and say that I do that with all due respect to the Dumoulin effect. I think it's been on Letang. I think it's been on the whole defensive core. I think they just see him making the simple play, and they think, well, that's how it's supposed to be done, or that's how it's been done around here when that guy was collecting his rings too. Jared McCann, I see him as having kind of saved this portion of the season at the risk of overstating it, because if you had just one line going, and to Sid's credit and Jake and Rust, they have been going and they haven't stopped going. But if you just have that one line going, I think you could see this whole process kind of slow down and the Penguins lose some confidence. Jared McCann has made sure that that didn't happen by moving, incidentally, from what I think is his natural position on the wing to center, but also the power play. Jenna, you showed the stats up there. He has been the shooter on the power play. Think about that for a second. On a team that's got all these guys, and we were all pining earlier in the season for Kasperi Kapanen, get out there. You need a gunner on the power play. This guy was sitting on the bench the whole time.
And my favorite stat as of late is that Jared McCann and Alex Ovechkin have the same number of power play goals this season.
Well, there.
So.
You know what's interesting, though? You know, he was a first-round pick by Vancouver, and then he went to Florida, and then comes to Pittsburgh here. In his first 314 games with Vancouver, Florida, and Pittsburgh, he had 5 power play goals. He has 6 in his last 24. And he also, as you guys remember, went through a really long stretch where he couldn't score. Somebody else went through a stretch like that.
And his pattern reminds me a lot of Brian Rust.
Brian Rust went through something like that, and when you come out the other side and you are not damaged emotionally, and that can happen. I think Jared McCann's a better player from what he went through and realized, I am a good goal scorer. I can put the puck in the net, and he's doing it on a regular basis now.
Just had that long-range wrist shot too, Phil. That goes back 20, 30 years when we used to see that thing regularly in the National Hockey League. It's fun to see. It really is.
It really is. We've talked a lot about the first and second line guys here, but the fourth line, they've been contributing. Yes, there have been some empty net goals, but 8 of the last 9 games, a fourth liner has been on the score sheet. What's really impressed you guys about what they've been able to do and the way that they've been able to contribute, especially knowing that some of the guys that are injured right now may be coming back in the near to semi-near future? Well,
for me, first of all, there's been certain players that have really had their stock go up, and I think of Freddie Gaudreau. Fast Freddie Gaudreau right away, that his stock has gone up. A guy like Sam Lafferty is an interesting guy because he's played 30 games this year and he doesn't have a point. Got in a big fight in New York, but he's a scrappy player, and I think Mike Sullivan really likes him a lot. Evan Rodriguez, another player, stock going up. Radim Zahorna came out of nowhere, undrafted player. His stock is off the charts. He's got 4 points in 5 games. You've got some other players like Anthony Angelo, Drew O'Connor. You're not really sure. Do these guys fit? Can they play? You're not really sure. But to answer the question of why the X's and O's, there's urgency there.
Yes.
There's a forecheck there. Yes. There's a cycle there. And it's more than that than just being energy guys. Now they're starting to contribute on a somewhat consistent basis offensively, and that takes the Pittsburgh Penguins from being a good or a little bit more than good team to a very good team because you're taking the weight off of the big guys, and you can still win games when Sid, Rusty, and Jake don't score because your fourth line is contributing.
You know, my thing with the fourth line is to advise caution against anybody who thinks that the Penguins are just going to put the 3 best or hottest players on that line. That is not how Mike Sullivan or any NHL head coach builds their line combinations. You need penalty killing. So you're going to have some unattractive, unpopular choices there. Radim Zohorna is going to get us all out of our seats like we were when he blew around that dude in the Garden. But if he can't kill penalties, I don't know that he's going to be able to skate on that fourth line in playoff games. If he can't slide up and down the wing chart the way Evan Rodriguez can, if he can't take right-handed face-offs, these are all things that coaches think about, and I know that fans don't. Believe me, I don't either when I'm doing those lines. I want to see the guys that I want to watch play. But there's a reason behind this. Mike Sullivan says that he opens up every morning preparing for a game by figuring out who his penalty killers are. He's got to have enough of those guys first. It's great to have the competition, but I don't think you're going to see it result in, let's just put the best guys there.
What did Herb Brooks say when he was picking the Olympic team in 1980? I don't want the best player. I want the right player.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Because what was Herbie trying to do? Win the game.
Yeah.
He did win the game.
That they did. Well, thanks so much for joining us on Overtime on the Ice.